My story. On an early morning on September 20th, 1993, my aunt's ex-boyfriend snuck into my home and killed my aunt and my dad. We were a large Vietnamese family who owned a pool bar on the lower levels of the building, while we used the upper part as our home. We were located in Portland, Oregon, on Glizsan Street. And that particular morning, it was my aunt who was left in charge of preparing everything in order to open the pool bar in the morning. Her son, my cousin, who lived with us and thankfully had just left for school. Everyone else, including my mom, was gone for the day. My grandmother and my other aunt had left for Vietnam that week to attend to my great-grandmother's funeral. So it was just my aunt, my dad, and I, starting with me. I was only 3 years old, but these memories will forever haunt me till this day. Every tiny grain of details and even down to the smell was ingrained into my brain. I was sleeping soundly next to my dad when I remembered hearing these loud pops that reminded me of firecrackers. It wasn't scary, to be honest. It just startled me into waking up for a few seconds before I dozed off again. The next thing I felt was the sensation of feeling my dad getting up from the bed and quickly heading out of the bedroom. The only reason that woke me up was because of how fast he got up. But I still was not aware of anything happening at that moment, but still I dozed right back to sleep with not a care in the world. I don't know how long my dad was gone for, but I woke up with something heavy landing next to me. Since I woke up with my face facing towards the door, I saw a man running past by my bedroom. I turned my head the other way and saw that the thing that landed next to me was my dad. He had a hole in his neck and blood was pouring out of it. Have you ever heard the sound of a fountain at the mall? It kind of sounded like that. It just kept flowing. I stared at him for a few seconds before running out of the room for my life. In my 3-year-old mind, I told myself that I needed to go downstairs and look for someone to help me. As I made it down the hallway, I saw little drops of blood leading me a trail. The trail led from the hallway down the stairs, through our downstairs living room, through the karaoke room, and finally into the kitchen, where we cook for our guests. I finally got to the door that led from the karaoke room to the kitchen, and I was confused when I saw my aunt lying on the floor with her ex-boyfriend on top of her crying. Beside her were broken glass and food that was splattered everywhere. I remember just standing by the door and holding onto a doorknob and just twisting it back and forth. I remember not feeling anything. I just didn't understand what was happening, so as I stood there, her ex finally looked up and saw me. He just simply got up and without a word, walked past me and exited the building through the karaoke room. I watched him walk outside and fiercely threw the black jacket that he was wearing across the parking lot. It was a jacket that my aunt bought him when they were dating. He was at least considerate enough to call my other uncle to tell him what he had done and to call the police because I was still alive and I needed help. Instead of turning himself into the police, he made the decision to kill himself later that day. The last thing that I ever remember from that day was watching my cousin cry to himself on a lawn chair after we had a police who had broken the news to him. From that day on, we had weird, unexplainable events that would rarely occur from time to time. Living in that house has honestly shaped me to the person that I am today. It made me love all things that are paranormal. Mostly everyone that I lived there had their own share of scary stories from living there, and I'm going to do my best to tell you them all. We can start with my grandmother's friend, who came by to check on us after the cops left the night of the murder. We'll call her Anna. We did not have cell phones back then, so when Anna saw what happened on the news, she decided to come over the first chance that she got. It was late when she arrived at our home. At first, it seemed like no one was home. No cars were around. Because at that point, my family and I were staying at another location for the night. Because we still needed to clean up the bloodstains and, of course, it was still a crime scene. Anna was about to turn back and head home when she saw a man sitting on one of the couches in the dark karaoke room. She waved at him to let her in, but he just sat there, just staring at her. No one is home. They're all gone. Please go home, was all he said. Please, I need to know what happened. I'm a friend, she cried. Please go home. They're gone, he said again. Feeling frustrated, Anna turned around and left. Later on, when she finally got in touch with my mom and my aunts, she made sure to vent about what happened that night. My mom and aunts knew that no one was in that house that night, and it sent chills to her bones when they showed Anna a picture of my aunt's ex-boyfriend, and she excitedly pointed at it. That's the guy! He was in your home that night, she said. He was the one that killed my husband and sister, my mom cried. I didn't know about this story until my mom decided to tell me when I was in my 20s. So when I turned 4 that following year, we had a huge party for me. We had friends and family filling up the pool bar, the karaoke room, the dining room. Everyone had a great time, including the adults, even if it was the first birthday where I didn't have my dad. But that night was the first time my dad decided to show himself to me, and I felt like it was a present from him to me. My mom had just put me in bed, and we were still sleeping in the room where my dad had died. My mom had gotten herself in bed and was trying to get comfortable when I looked up and saw him staring down at me. The first thing I noticed was that his face was like a black canvas. He had no facial features. What made me know that it was my dad in the first place was his hairstyle and choice of outfit. He had on a yellow-orange vest with a white undershirt. We kinda just stared at each other till he just poofed away. When I calmly told my mom that I saw Dad, she hauled ass and carried me to the next room where my grandmother was sleeping in. We stayed there for weeks. We also had a situation where one of my aunt and her son saw my deceased aunt floating at the top of the stairs. Coincidentally, next to the stairs is where my now deceased aunt and her son shares. When they made their way up the stairs, then they noticed that there was a dead rat in the middle of her room. Years later, after my grandma sold the building in hopes of starting a new life in California, the haunting only got worse. After a few months of selling the property, we received a phone call from the new owner saying he was scared to stay in the building. For all you guys that are wondering if we told him about the deaths that occurred, we did. My family made a lot of money in that place, which made the new owner wanted it badly. What scared him was that when he was washing his hands, he happened to glance at the mirror. He saw a man standing just behind him, just staring back at him. The new owner was the only one staying in that huge building. With just that, the whole situation freaked him out to the core. Another situation that happened, that was the icing on the cake, was when the new owner had some friends visiting from another state. At first, everyone was having a great time, until it was time for them to hit the hay. From what I was told, the friends that were visiting stayed in the room next to the stairs. At first, nothing happened, until one guy woke up to someone walking around outside the hall. The door creaked open a little, leaving enough space to see what was happening outside. And to his horror, he saw a man walk back and forth only in his boxer shorts, which was funny to me because this man who was visiting from another state never knew that my dad liked to sleep in shorts. He turned around and managed to get in some sleep until morning came. The poor guy decided the next day that it was all a dream. He also figured that because he had drank so much alcohol, it probably had some part in his weird dream as well. A couple days later was when he experienced another strange and scary event. He was the last one to wake up and was the last one to get ready. As he was waiting for his turn to take a shower, he noticed that his friend took a long time showering. After waiting for 30 minutes, he decided to just barge in and bitch at his friend to hurry up. To his horror, there was no one in the showers. His blood ran cold as he cannot believe that there was no one there. He swore that someone was in the bathroom because he heard the water running. He even heard someone moving in there. He quickly got ready without showering and made his way downstairs only to see his friends yell at him for taking forever. Poor guy. Spent the next couple days in a motel until he had to go home. For now, these are the only stories that I can think of to tell you guys. People still live in that building now, and I want so badly to go visit my old home. But they probably think I'm weird or something like that. Thank you, Horror Studio 1, for reading my story. I'd appreciate it, even if you don't post it in your videos. It just feels good to be able to tell my stories to someone who has the same interest as me. Thank you. Weird event after the death of my friend. Hi. First of all, I want to thank you for all your videos, as I am watching them every single day. This is my first time posting something, so I am sorry if it doesn't really make any sense. English is not my first language. This story happened to me. I'm a female, 22 years old. In the summer of 2013, I met with one of the guy friends that I grew up with. You know, that kind of friend that you knew all your life because your parents grew up together. So after a long and great conversation, the last thing he told me was just to give him one chance to take me out. I did not say yes or no, I just told him, we'll talk. The thing is, I was really avoiding getting involved with someone as I was really in love with my now boyfriend. I never thought that I'll never get a chance to talk to him again. 3 months later, I found out he died in a motorcycle accident. The day of the funeral, I was at school and I was struggling with the thought of going there, and even though my friends and family were there, I just took the coward way out and said that I would visit his grave the next day. On my way home after a terribly sad day, I just wanted to be home and cry without people around me. As I was almost home, in the corner of my eye, I saw something black, like a really fast shadow moving. But it was like the smallest thing that can catch your attention, so I stopped and turned around. The second I turned around, I just felt the biggest chill. Like something really cold went through me, and all my body hair just stood up. I looked at the time and realized the funeral had started, so I took it as his way of saying goodbye to me. Since then, twice a year, he talks to me in my dreams. Once in the springtime, as we were born 4 days apart. The second time I'll see him in my dreams will be around the time he died, autumn. In every single dream, he tells me the same thing, and my reply is the same. Only the scenery changes. He'll tell me to come with him because he is cold and feels lonely, and my reply is, I'm sorry, but I can't because I am alive and you're dead. And after that, I'll just wake up. Now, I know that this is not that scary, and it might just be my brain trying to cope with the guilt, but I just felt like I have to share this because our birthdays are less than 10 days away anyways. Keep up the good work. Peace. Goodbyes. Dear Horror Studio 1, I hope this story is up to par with your standards. My mom lived in a pretty small town when she went to high school. Her high school was small and everyone knew everyone else. My mom had a teacher. She said it was one of the best teachers she ever had. Everyone loved this teacher, but she was his favorite student. Every day, she would stop in his classroom at lunch to say hello and wish him a nice rest of the day and give him a hug. Her class with him was a morning class. One Friday, she knew he was going to be busy with a meeting at lunch, so she didn't say hello to him and went straight to the cafeteria to eat lunch with friends and her sisters. She went to say goodbye to him after school had ended, but he was already gone by the time she got to his room. He had been planning to do something, and he needed to leave as soon as possible so he could pack and leave. She walked back home with her sisters and had a normal Friday and Saturday. Saturday night, though, she had an odd dream. The dream started out with my mother getting food in the cafeteria, a very empty cafeteria. He noticed that her teacher had walked in, which was peculiar as he ate in his classroom. He came up to her and said, "Hello, Christy," and got a train of food. He hugged her, kissed her cheek, it was his thing to do that, and said he had to go, and then a simple goodbye. He walked out of the cafeteria and she ran into the hallway to chase after him. When she got into the hallway, he was gone. She woke up in tears and was very, very confused. When she talked to her parents in the morning, they had to break the news to her. Her teacher had passed away. He had died while rock climbing and had taken a pretty big fall. He had died instantly. My mom believes she was visited by him after he had died the day before because she didn't get to say goodbye the previous Friday. The school got a sub for the rest of the year and life went on. I tend to be very skeptical of paranormal things, but I find the story so pure and sad. My mother has many other stories of paranormal things happening and weird things she's seen. She moved quite a bit and was very active. I'm sure that contributed to her experiences and how many she has had. I've seen the high school this happened at, and I can see how his death affected everybody. My mother was very close to him and his family, it being a small town, and it took his death pretty hard. This happened 25 years ago when my mom was 15 or 16. I hope the story is long enough and you found it as interesting as I did. I sent the story already while typing that one. I remember this one. I know it wasn't scary, but a ghost is a ghost. Sorry I'm not too great at writing.